What's good, guys? So I called a trade like a few hours ago and literally, 10 minutes ago, took a trade and within 10 minutes it was already hit full TP. But that's not the reason why I'm making this video though. The reason I'm making this video right now, as the price is literally still moving right now, is because it's to cover something a little bit deeper, which is how do you remain patient? Because I entered this trade right at the very moment that it started to move. And so how do you remain patient to avoid all of this stuff from before so that you can actually get into the trade at the right timing? But also, besides that, I'm also going to share a couple of lessons on how to filter through a trade idea to just make sure that you're just taking, the absolute best trades. I'm going to give you a very simple mental framework to do that so that you can stop, again, getting stopped out for no reason and to actually just be on the right side of the equation more often than not. But with that said, though, let's just dive right into it. So just right before I get into it, though, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Suen. I basically make daily videos on my YouTube, just calling what is about to happen on Bitcoin. And once I actually make the YouTube videos, I actually post my entries on X, right? So it's not like gated behind some signals group or whatever. I just post it on X for, everyone to see. And as a result of that, I also track my kind of success rate and like my win rate, because after all, anyone can make calls on Bitcoin, but not everyone was going to be, actually holding themselves accountable and keeping everything transparent. So win or lose, posting it on Twitter. So over here is like, let me just show you the trade. Like, again, this is just proof. So again, like, hopefully that gives you a reason to listen to me, because I have about like what, a 78% win rate across 200 trades over the last year and a half or so. So yeah, let's get into it. And in today's video, essentially what I was talking about is that ideally I want to see price actually come into this blue box right here prior to us taking a short. But either way, we're going to be looking for a short movement towards the downside. So ultimately, we did not end up coming into the PD array. And if you just take a look at what I shared on Twitter about close to a couple of hours ago, my consensus was I was basically saying that, hey, I am holding off on a trade for now. And the reason for that is because we did not manage to go back into that hourly bearish order block that I discussed in the video. It's the exact one that I just showed you. And even though price is heading lower, which take a look here, like price was heading lower prior to this, we also don't have a bearish CISD on the 1 hourly chart yet to really confirm bearishness. And just to give you an idea of what I was talking about at the time is over here, like I really wanted to see a CISD below this level to really just really confirm bearishness. If that happened though, fantastic. I would have not hesitated whatsoever and I would have just dived right into it. But alas, we did not get that. And so that leads me on to like the second part of the equation, and this one is going to teach you how to think about like filtering through good trade ideas versus how do you skip the bad ones, right? Essentially, it also ties into how to be patient. So over here, I basically said that, okay, I can also make the argument right now that we are actually coming back into a bullish order block and that we can actually bounce higher from here, right? Just to give you an idea of what I was talking about, this is technically a bullish order block. Right now, essentially, at the time that I was making the post, and the reason why I was being patient was because I could, at the time, make an argument that price was going to hit this order block and bounce. But at the same time, because of the overall structure and the overall order flow of the 1 hourly chart, I can say that, okay, I'm actually looking for shorts, but I can also make an argument that we could go bullish. And it is in that very moment, and this is going to be a very good mental model for you in general, to just think about filtering through trade ideas, which is whenever you can make an argument for both sides of the equation, the answer is going to be no. Because if you really break down or just think back to some of the best trades that you've ever got, right? The trades where, with a single trade, you basically make enough money and you're done for the week, or like you make enough money to, equal someone's monthly salary or like yearly salary or whatever. And don't worry if you haven't, gotten to that point yet, but either way, the core like kind of thesis still stands. If you just look back to the best trades that you have ever taken, think back to it. How clear were they? Chances are it was super clear where, okay, the higher time frame is pointing down, the lower time frame is pointing down, the middle time frame is pointing down, Trump is about to come out to speak or whatever, like everything seems to be aligned. And when you see a trade like that, you're like, oh yeah, you basically just come to the conclusion that, okay, there is no other way for me to explain this other than the fact that this is an A+ setup. So I'm going to take it. Of course I'm going to take it because it's an A+ setup. So those are the best trades that you take. And the beautiful thing about trading is that the amount of money that you make from trading is directly correlated to how many of these A+ trades that you manage to take. And only that. This is the same thing for me. I have made videos in the past where I have shown you my records of how I have passed multiple funding challenges with I don't know, like a 20 to 30% win rate. I have even shown you records of me going on losing streaks of like 20 trades in a row, and I still managed to pass money challenges, and I still managed to get payouts, and I still managed to make a profit at the end of the day. How was I able to do that? Well, majority of those wins came from the A plus setups. And you know what I realized after that? Like after making those couple of videos, is that I realized I am like, this has been a recurring pattern where I have a pretty low win rate, but I am incredibly profitable. So once I started actually digging into that, I realized the majority of my profits is literally concentrated in a handful of A plus setups. It is literally everything else that I'm taking in between that kind of looks good enough that, you know, I think this makes sense, or like, I think this could go this way, but at the same time, I'm not super sure. Like, it's always trades like those. I could exclusively the A plus setups, not be kind of like derailed by all of these B setups that I was, you know, taking. I could have passed the funding challenge like potentially 10 times quicker, 5 times quicker, or whatever it is, right? I could have made 5 to 10 times the amount of money. And just to give you another example to really break this down, there were moments before where, you know, clearly I remember, you know, like let's say I make in a single trade, I make like $10,000. Then when I look at the, you know, kind of like end of month report, and, you know, when I actually go to, you know, withdraw that money into my account, there's only 4,000. That's because I was getting derailed by all of these B setups. And this ultimately just ties back to something that I always like to tell you guys in the YouTube videos, which is we all know what the A plus setup looks like. This is the trades where everything is so clear and so straightforward that there is no other way to explain it other than this is a great potential trade. Just because we know that though, does not mean like we're just getting... Now, if we only took those, again, we would be incredibly successful. The hard part about trading is to avoid all of the garbage that comes in between those A plus setups. Because the entire kind of concept about these A plus setups is that they are outliers, right? They're they're exceptional. They're exceptionally good. And by exception, it means that it is not the norm. So it doesn't come around that often. So as a trader, if you are able to exercise more discipline, to be patient, to know exactly what you're looking for, and to only go for the A plus setups and avoid all of the garbage in between, that is how you win. And that is the kind of like first, you know, promise that I made at the start of the video, which is how to you select better trades, right? And just to go back to my thought process from back here, like literally, like I could still make an argument until this very moment right here. And that was about an hour after I posted that. Literally, in fact, if you look at this, right, this little candle here that went to the upside, like to anyone that would have got in a little bit too early and, you know, went in on like one of these smaller CISDs or whatever because they were impatient and they were trying to force a trade, even though they could still make an argument like, yeah, I think this can go down, but this can also go up, but I'm just going to try this anyways, they would have got stopped out in a single candle. Meanwhile, what I did instead was I waited for a undeniable signal. The reason why I ended up taking this change in state of delivery right here, and the reason why I entered here instead of, you know, anywhere else, is because I understand that if this is a bullish order block and if price really does want to bounce from it, you're not going to be like retest once, all right, fair, right, fair. Retest the second time, all right, you're still okay. But then you continue breaking lower, and clearly, right, clearly this is a sign of bearishness. And the moment the market shows me that sign of bearishness is only then do I jump in. And even when I did, it was not like a, you know, I do not go full risk, right? I only went half risk, as I've kind of already mentioned here, right? So I did not make as much money as I would have usually made if I were to have went full risk, but that's okay because like this was such a good trade that I felt the need to just kind of come on here and talk about it. But the reason why I'm excited and the reason why I am making this video is not to brag to you about the fact that I managed to catch this trade. The result does not matter. As like ironically, it's when you focus on the process, right? You focus on the thought. It's the reason why I've been spending this entire video just discussing the thought process and discussing the mental side of things, because this is where the money is made. It's controlling yourself, it's being disciplined, it's knowing exactly what you're looking for and taking nothing else. This is what's ultimately going to lead to the results. It's ironically when you stop thinking about the results and you just focus on the process, that's when, you know, the money starts flowing in. I know, very ironic, but yeah, you know, like cats, you know, the more you want to touch them, the more they're going to run away. But, you know, if you sit here and you just, you know, I don't know, lock in, drink an espresso at 12 a.m., that is how the cat starts coming to you. But anyways, I digress. And so like the second thing that, you know, I kind of promised you that I would discuss in this video was the idea of patience, right? It becomes really easy to be patient when you know exactly what you're looking for. And that's where, you know, for me, it ties back to my system. So instead of like a lot of people, when they look at trading, and when they look at, traders trading, they seem to, especially beginners, right? There is a very huge misconception here that I am actively trying to process exactly what the market's doing right now. I'm like doing an active analysis. I'm, doing like cost, risk, whatever. But the reality is it's a lot simpler than that. In the hour leading up to this confirmation of the trade, I was literally watching a video about the recent NBA draft. But I did set a little mental alarm to come back once we actually hit the 9:30 a.m. New York Futures Open. And funnily enough, that's exactly when price started moving. Now, why do I know this? It's because it's a part of my system. I know exactly what times I'm going to be trading for. I know exactly what I'm looking for at those times. So instead of me trying to think about what the market's going to do, I'm just looking for certain confirmations that the market, like, okay, I'm looking for A, B, C, D, E. And I'm literally, all I'm doing when I come into the charts is I'm just waiting. Okay, A is met. All right, great. Is B met? Oh, B not yet, but C, D, E is already met. So I just wait for the time until B is met, and boom. That's when I enter without hesitation. Literally, like, once the CISD got confirmed, if we just go into the 1 minute chart here, I remember I remember pulling the trigger pretty much immediately. But even then, right, there was 1 minute, literally 1 minute, probably less. If I go into the 15-second chart, we spent about 15 seconds at that level. Now, granted, I did end up needing to add to my position a little bit later because I did not get filled fully at this stage, which is why, like, in the screenshot, in fact, let me just show you the screenshot. In fact, I don't even know if yeah, so if you can see here today, the camera gonna focus? You know what, we're just gonna put it. I actually don't know too much about cameras, so not sure how to, even if I tap the screen or whatever, it doesn't like focus. But we will put it on the screen. But basically, like, my average entry was actually slightly lower, and the reason for that is because I didn't get filled fully initially. But yeah, this was one of those moments where, okay, I know exactly what I'm waiting for, and then the moment it happens, I execute immediately, right? No hesitation. And the only reason I'm able to do that is because I have a framework and I have a system. I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I know exactly what are the steps that I will take when the criteria are met. And if you would like my help to install this very same system for you so that you can also start being consistent, so that you can also start getting consistent and predictable results from trading instead of coming in day to day and being frustrated and not knowing why you are losing trades, just getting really pissed off, feel free to click the first link in the description box below. But otherwise, if you have any questions, drop it down in the comment section below. I read every single one. And if I think that your question is good enough to make a video about it, and this is when you're going to see me shout you out in a video like this. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.